Welcome into Uncaged Sports Talk. We are here after an exciting Phillies game last night, or at the time I'm recording this, an exciting Phillies game tonight. But this episode will come out tomorrow, which will be Thursday as everyone's listening. But it was an exciting Phillies game last night. First of all, before I get into anything and before I introduce my guest this week, I just want to say, ha ha, attaboy, attaboy, Arcia. Ha ha, attaboy, Arcia. Flip it on him. Attaboy Harper is another way I can say it now because he got Arcia back. He went out there tonight and put on a show, 2 home runs, almost tied a record tonight, which if he would have hit 3, he would have tied a record for most home runs in a divisional round game or maybe playoff game for one player, I believe. But Harper put on a show tonight. He stared right at Arcia and as he rounded the bases and was like, "Okay, I answered." Arcia woke up Bryce Harper. But before we get more into that, I'm gonna introduce my guest, Michael Boyer. Nice to have you
What's
back
up?
on the show, Michael.
Dude, I'm very happy to be here. Very honored to be here for a third time. And after a phenomenal Phillies win, I got my Philly suit jacket on just for you, Luke. I put it on just for you, man. And dude, I have matching pants to go with it, but honestly, I think I lost them. But the
you gotta
jacket's my pride and joy right here.
you gotta get the overalls
I
that
do,
Hugh
man.
Douglas
They're
and Joe
pricey,
Giglio have
but
been
I don't
wearing.
know.
I can't get myself to wear the overalls. Hugh Douglas was saying they're back in style. First of all, I don't even know if they were ever in style,
No, I don't know, man.
but I I don't think I could ever get myself to wear them. I'll say this live on air. If they win the World Series, I'll post a picture online of me wearing the overalls. I'll buy the overalls and post a picture of me wearing them.
Luke, sign me up to be in that picture with you wearing overalls as well, man. Sign
Yeah,
sign me up for it.
that'll
I'm
be my
ready.
gift to myself. If they win the World Series, they should come out. They might even knock on wood if getting ahead of myself with all that talk. But it, they might even come out with a specialty one. But that's my bet to myself. If they wind up winning it, wearing overalls. But
Absolutely, my man.
that's 9 wins away. Getting a little ahead of ourselves there. This game tonight was an amazing game by the Phillies. Harper 2 home runs, Castellanos 2 home runs. They outscored the Braves by themselves. Reminded me almost of last year's game. I've been texting you guys Dan, Connor, and Ryan score predictions before every game. My score prediction this week for people listening, the Phillies won more than I thought they would, by more than I thought they would. I'll
Yes, they did.
start off by that. But I expected an 8-4 game. I predicted. At one point, it looked like it might turn out to be an 8-4 game. But I also said how the game goes. I normally don't do that. But I said the Braves start out with an early lead, and then Harper opens it up. And that's exactly what happened. And the Phillies didn't look back once Harper got the Phillies. Once Harper opened it up for the Phillies. And they just pulled away from there on. Back-to-back home runs by Castellanos, I believe it was, and Marsh.
Yep. I mean, that was nice. I mean, the only bad thing about that is that they didn't end with 8 runs like you predicted, but they did
Yeah,
better than you predicted, which
yeah, a lot better.
and I was very scared going into this game because obviously, they had a very gut-wrenching loss in Atlanta in game 2. And obviously, in a game or in a series when you're playing a team like Atlanta, you're looking for the split on the road. Atlanta's a great team, but you win game 1, you have an opportunity, you're up 4-0 in game 2, and it kind of gets away from you. And it's tough. Like, and most teams and a lot of teams I feel like would respond very negatively to that. Obviously, it
Mhm.
stings. Like, you want to win that game, and like I'm sure, and it seems like the players on the Phillies took it to heart, specifically Castellanos and Harper wearing Coach Prime stuff before the game. They took it personal, and they both had 2 home runs in the game, which is very interesting. And it's just crazy. It really shows how resilient this team is because that loss is just as bad as a loss as you could have. The way it
Yeah.
happened,
I
the go-ahead home run by Austin Riley in the eighth, and then obviously the big catch by Michael Harris on the Castellanos ball, which I really thought was gone off
Chaz
the bat.
McCormick 2.0.
Yes, it was, and it was
That's
painful.
at least what I thought it was at the moment.
Yeah, and I was at
Oop,
the Chas McCormick game, which was very painful. But the Phillies responded, had a chance to maybe put the Braves away today if they were able to win game two. But you know what? You take who you can get. You got another game tomorrow, or I guess today, as this episode is released. And Strider's coming into the bank once
we
again,
want
and
Strider.
we do want Strider. That's what everyone's saying, man. I mean, I hope it ages well. I get scared about those call outs. I don't know. I just want it to age well. You know what I mean?
I'll go back to the point about the game last night or the game on Monday night. The game on Monday night, the way it ended, my biggest worry was that they awoke a sleeping giant. Like I almost would have rathered them at the time just gotten blown out in the game,
Yeah.
just so it didn't linger. But the day off allowed them to just get home, spend time with their families, and just forget about it and just flush it. I said it on the cage last year a few like one or two times. Like I think the Sixers. I think I said it for one of the games. May have said it for the Phillies for a game as well. I was like, it's just a game you just flush. You just flush it down the toilet and you forget about it and you move on. And the day off allowed the Phillies to be able to do that as they come back home and got a huge lift by the crowd and went on a barrage in this game yesterday. It was an amazing game to
And
watch.
more specifically in the third inning. I mean, that was like you said, Luke,
Yeah.
you thought they're gonna start out slow, and they really did. They got shut down in the first couple innings by Bryce Elder making his postseason debut, which was, he looked good out the gate, but then he fell apart in the third inning, and that's exactly what the Phillies are looking for. But the Braves take the lead in the top of the third, and it's like, oh no, here we go. Very scary, watching them take the lead in this game. Maybe they
One
quieted the crowd a little bit. Castellanos responds with a leadoff home run in the bottom of the third inning to tie the game up, and then the floodgates opened after that, and Bryce Harper really, had his way. And I said this when it happened, that home run by Bryce Harper, it landed in the same exact spot as the walk-off grand slam. I don't know if you noticed that, Luke, but that he had a couple years ago against the
Oh,
Cubs.
yeah.
Same exact spot. I don't know. I thought it was cool. Like, that's his spot, dude. Like, will it stay fair? I don't know. We'll see. And then it ended up being
Yeah.
fair. So that was a big one there by Bryce, and they never looked back after that.
Yeah, it was a huge home run by Bryce. Just got the team rolling. Hopefully they roll into today as this podcast comes out to Strider and they hit off a Strider. They only scored 2 runs off a Strider on Saturday night, but they've hit Strider well before. Granted, he had an oblique injury last year, but they might have Strider's number at the bank, and the fans are letting Strider hear already before the end of this game. Before
Yeah,
we
they
move,
know.
before I show something about Strider that's been talked about recently, and a lot of fans are calling for the Phillies to almost play it on a loop before the game tomorrow. Before I show that, I want to go back to this Arcia thing, this haha attaboy Harper. The fact that got out of the locker room is insane. That because stuff like that, I guarantee, just happens a lot,
Oh
but
yeah.
doesn't get out really. The fact it got out is funny to me, and Harper used it as fuel. Right before we came live on the show, I saw a tweet I wanted to talk about. Harper said that his teammates showed him it, and he was like, his teammates said, "What are you gonna do about it, Harper?" They literally basically challenged him, "What are you gonna do about it, Bryce?" And Bryce went out there and showed with his actions what he was gonna do about it. And with this stare down, he showed Arcia what he did about it. Two home runs tonight. Stared down Arcia with a Tyron Lue step over type moment.
Yep.
This
I mean,
this, this
it's tough,
series has
man.
been a clash so far.
Yeah,
I
it
hope they
really
pull it
has.
out tomorrow, but it could also very well go the distance, which these 2 teams, I think I wanna know your opinion. Whoever wins this series wins the World Series.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. I mean, it's looking like it could be the Astros and Rangers in the ALCS, and I think
Please,
we'll probably
Rangers,
see
pull
the
it off.
Astros again.
Please.
Maybe if the Phillies were able to make it back, the Astros might repeat as the champions of the AL
I'll take
for the
my
second year
rematch
in a
cup.
row. And currently, as we're recording this, and we'll probably have a final score by the end of this. The top of the ninth just ended, and the Astros are up 3-2
Yeah.
on the Twins. So, I mean, we might be able to get you guys a final score before it's all said and done. But like, it's looking like it could be Astros Rangers ALCS, and I think the Astros got worse this year. They don't look as good, and the Rangers are tough. But I think the Phillies. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they would have home field in both of those situations, right?
The I don't think so. The Astros had a better record, and the
Okay.
Rangers have the tiebreaker.
Oh, they do have the tiebreaker of the Phillies.
Strictly
Yeah.
because of the first series of the year for the Phillies
Yeah.
losing to the Rangers. Did they get swept in that series?
Yes, they did.
It's so long ago.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't great.
they had a big lead early in the series and then they got swept.
Yeah,
But
let me make
I
sure. Yep,
actually
it was not good for the Phillies.
I
They did
actually
get swept.
I actually would prefer them to start on the road in the series, especially in the series against like the if you have a matchup against the Rangers if you get to that point because split on the road, then you come to Philly. I don't think the Rangers are winning at all in Philly. You would
Mhm.
win that series in 5 games against the Rangers. Against the Astros, it would probably go back to Houston for game 6. But against the Rangers, that might end in 5.
Yeah.
This next series, though, the Phillies could potentially, if the Phillies get through this matchup, depending on how the Diamondbacks and Dodgers game wraps up, we will not have that. We will not know while recording this, but we will know in the morning. Depending on how that series wraps up, the Phillies could potentially have home field advantage in the NLCS. They're they're beating the Diamondbacks in 5 games. A sweep's hard, but if the Diamondbacks take the Phillies to 6 games, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I'd
they've looked good, but I mean,
I'd be very shocked. One thing
yeah.
I do want to bring up though, I want to know your opinion. I've been meaning to actually bring this up the next time I had a guest on the podcast. When I think I have a solution to the MLB's problem with like teams coming off of a bye. How the
Mhm.
MLB has like the bye week now, and teams have been complaining about it. The Dodgers come in cold, the Orioles come in cold, the Braves come in cold for the first 14 innings of the series and have a run. That week off hurts a team in baseball. It hurt teams last year. I believe the Braves had home field advantage. They came in cold to start. Last year, the Dodgers came in cold against the Padres. I don't know if the Yankees had home field advantage. I can do my research, but statistically, so far, the only team except for there's only one team really that's had home field advantage and won in that first in the divisional round series matchups. Unless the Yankees won their matchup, which unless the Yankees were home, which they were home against the Indians. So out of 4 series or 8 series the last 2 years, the road team has potentially won 6 out of 8,
Yeah, it's
which is
wild.
or five out of 8 is the actual number. My bad. Five out
Mhm.
of eight is the correct number correction to that. But still, 5 out of 8 that statistic is trending towards showing that teams don't perform well with that week off. So the solution would be it might be a discredit to whoever earns a 1 seed in a regular season, but you have the 1 and 2 seed play during that week. Neither team can get eliminated. They're just playing for the right to the number 1 overall seed.
It's very interesting.
Whoever
Yeah.
gets the 1 seed during the regular season gets the home field advantage in that matchup, obviously. But then whoever wins that matchup gets the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. And then you do the reseeding as well. But that would allow those teams to stay hot going into potentially hot going into a playoff matchup, going into the divisional round series.
I mean, that's very interesting. I think that's a cool thing that they could try. Because I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of these
Mhm,
teams have come in very cold after getting that week off, and in a lot of sports that week off would help, but baseball is just different because it's just like it's all about feel. It's all about getting hot at the right time, and you know, kind of seeing how your bats are flowing, keeping your
mhm.
pitchers ready to go, everything like that. And it's tough, man, when you're not in game action, especially when you play 162 games in a season, maybe get one off day a week. So you're playing pretty much every day, like for the most part, and then you all of a sudden have like a week off. That's why a lot of teams, maybe struggle during the All-Star break or after the All-Star break,
Mhm.
out the gate. We've seen the Phillies do that before. Yeah, it's just tough, dude. It's weird to just uproot that. You're used to playing every
Yeah.
day, you get into a routine, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of sitting there, twiddling your thumbs, waiting
Mhm.
to see who you'd play after the wild card series, and you can't really prepare for much, and that like what you can't prepare for one team. What if you end up playing the other? It's
Yeah.
just it's interesting there.
A
So I,
a
I
te
kind of like that thought that you had about
and
that.
the teams can choose to manage it however they want to, because they know it's not as important. It would be more to kinda keep your batters hot. You're still
Yeah,
fighting for a number 1 overall seed, which if they do reseeding, which I think that's coming in the near future, would be important, getting the number 1 overall seed. I think the steps would be you do reseeding next. I think this offseason they'll look into reseeding and they'll probably decide on each round reseeding because the fact the Braves have to play the Phillies round 1 or in the divisional round, the Braves get the short end of the stick there. It should be Phillies Dodgers round 1 and Braves Diamondbacks. And
yeah,
then in the second round of but to avoid those teams coming in cold, the best thing to do, I think, is let them play a matchup for the number 1 overall seed. And the teams can choose to manage that however they want. They can not use their best pitchers and keep them fresh so they can have a more strategically use their pitchers during the divisional round matchups. But I just think that could be an interesting option because I know some people the have been complaining about the teams having a week off. I
yeah.
will
I
sh-
mean, it's definitely affected
yeah.
them for sure.
I will show a clip as we wrap up some of the baseball talk. Actually, before I show the clip of Strider, I want to know your thoughts on the Orioles falling because they're somewhat local. What are your thoughts on the Orioles falling?
I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised they lost the series, but I'm surprised they got swept.
Yeah.
I thought I predicted, or at least I didn't really say it out loud, but I thought that the Rangers were going to take one in Baltimore, possibly game one, and the O's are going to kind of get a taste of playoff baseball. They're going to come back and win game two, and then the
Mhm.
Rangers would take the next two in Texas. That's what I thought would happen. Just the Orioles are so young, and honestly, I know they had like an unreal record and they really had a great regular season, but I don't know, something about them just it didn't feel like they had the makings of going far, at least at this point in their, I guess, rebuild. They're a little bit ahead of schedule. They've had a lot of young guys come through the ranks and become very productive in the major leagues, but it just all kind of went cold. And maybe that has to do with having a week off, as we just discussed. But either way, the O's just kind of looked like they weren't really ready for the moment. But I also think maybe it's a good thing for them to get that taste of playoff baseball, and then I think they're gonna be even better next year. I don't know if they'll have a better record, but I think you'll see them have more confidence going into the playoffs
Mhm.
because they have been there before, despite you know kind of opening the door and then shutting it right away. Getting swept, but they played a couple postseason games, so.
I'm actually gonna tie them in to the Phillies for a second. I just had a weird thought, and it might like a light bulb might go off. S- uh, s- Somewhat similar. It's the two things are teams are somewhat similar. The 2023 Orioles might be the 2007 Phillies. The 2007 Phillies went into Colorado in a divisional round series against Colorado, and they lost 3-0. A young team, first year making the playoffs. Carlos Ruiz was only in his second year. Ryan Howard was only in like his third year. Chase Utley like fourth year. So fairly young team overall. Yeah, Chase Utley's fifth year. Hadn't had many at bats yet in the majors. Both teams very young, very raw. Get their first taste of playoff action and come up short in the playoffs.
And then what happened the next year?
Next year, the Phillies won the World Series.
Yeah. So I mean that's interesting, and I mean I think the light bulb did go off for me, like you said. I mean that's a very good thought there because that team, I mean that core stayed together for a while,
Mhm.
and I know it's early in the Orioles' efforts, rebuilding the team and getting this core together, but seems like this group, these guys are going to be together for a while, like Santander, Mountcastle, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, soon to be next year, as well. Like, a lot of these guys are going to be, with this franchise for a long time. They came up through the minor leagues and they really developed them well. And that's kind of what the Phillies did back then, with the
Mhm.
Ryan Howard and a Chase Utley and,
The
Jimmy
Rollins,
Rollins
the
and,
Ruiz,
yeah,
the
the
Victorino.
legends. So, yeah, I mean, it's very useful for them to get that playoff experience. Obviously, it stings. It sucks
Mhm.
because this is the first time the O's have been in the playoffs in a while, and you want to feel confident as an Orioles fan, which I am not an Orioles fan, but I know a lot of Orioles
Your
fans.
roommate,
So
Dan.
yes, he is. Yeah, he likes the
Yeah.
Orioles. Which it's unfortunate for them, but at the same time, it's a learning experience, and I will say that thought the Orioles would be good. I didn't think they'd win the division, but I thought maybe they'd be a wild card team.
Mhm.
And they were a little bit better than I thought. So they're ahead of schedule. So nothing to worry about in Baltimore. And they renewed their stadium lease, so they're going to stay there for 30 more years. That's good for them, right?
30 more.
Yeah.
That's a long lease for a stadium. But before we get into some NFL talk, I want to show the video that should be playing on a loop at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow, right before first pitch and the bottom of the first inning, when fans are chanting Spencer, Spencer,
I'm going to need you to start that tomorrow,
Spencer.
Luke.
That's I probably won't even need to start it. Everyone's
Yeah,
probably gonna do it at the
I
same
need it to
time.
happen, dude. I need it.
But this should be what's playing on a loop to get the fans even more energized. Here's a clip of Strider talking about fans. He thinks fans should not be allowed in the stadium. This came out about 2 weeks ago. He thinks fans should not be allowed in the lower bowls of a stadium for baseball.
Do you have any hot sports takes?
Any hot sports takes? Absolutely, there should be no fans. 2020 season, no fans. Get rid of the fans. It's too loud.
Too loud?
It's too loud. Everybody be quiet. We don't need the cheering. We know you're watching. I don't need the fans. You stay outside the stadium. I mean, back it up. Let's do like a no lower bowl thing.
No lower
You know,
bowl, okay.
just kind of,
So you just get
yeah.
fans
Upper
like
deck's
that.
great. Upper deck's great. Outfield, phenomenal.
But
We don't need you around the dugouts.
All right.
Just try and be quiet.
Yeah, we're gonna give him hell tomorrow. For people listening, I will be at the game, So I will be at the game today. I keep saying today, tomorrow. People will get the gist of it. I will be
Yeah.
at game 4, sitting actually in the section of where the Philly captain sits.
Oh, 301?
301 is where
Dude,
my
those are my
ticket
boys.
is.
I'm sorry, real quick. Those are my boys, the Fandemic crew. Brett and Oscar. Oh my god. Dude, I've known them for like
What
years.
what row do they sit in?
They're all around the section. They kind of stand at the top, but
Mhm.
yeah, gotta say what's up to them. Make sure you tell them that like you know me, dude. You have to, man. Because actually, I saw them this morning. Not to get off topic, but I was on Good Day Philadelphia with them this morning.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
was,
dope.
yeah. I meant to tell you that, Luke. So or I guess yesterday morning. See, I'm doing it too with the
How did that
with the
happen?
release date. So they I did it last year as well, but they do a thing at Chickies and Pete's, the
Mhm.
Good Day Philadelphia, and they invite the Fandemic crew in, which Brett always texts me and asks if I want to do it. So and we kind of just stand in the background like cheer and stuff, you know. We're like
Mhm.
on the news. It's kind of cool. And last year I got to talk. I was like all fired up, and I introduced the I'll show you the clip. I introduced the we're talking about the Fightins guy.
Mhm.
His name's Jack, actually. I got to know him. He's a very nice guy. So I introduced him on the news. You know, I was all hyped, dude. So it was a good time. But yeah, those are my boys right there. So you're gonna have fun sitting in that section.
For people who don't know too, one of your other boys, I've texted you about this in a group chat. Butch on WIP, Butch from Manayunk. Did you see the video I sent you before the playoffs started? Before
Yes,
game 1
yes,
of
I
the
did.
playoffs? When I was like, "Get your boy Mike." I was like, "What is he doing?"
Bro, he is the man, dude. I love Butch so much. Like, he is
I haven't heard him
honestly
call
like
in
he's
in
a
a
great
while.
guy. Yeah, he doesn't call in anymore. Like when I mean I talk to him every once in a while, and you know, I really honestly got to know him as a person. He's a great guy. His wife died a few months ago, and
Uh,
you know, it's very upsetting, but he's
yeah.
doing well, and
When
I
it
think
fir
his wife was sick for a little bit, but Butch is a great guy, and he's a character, man. Like we got it. I'm gonna try to get him on the podcast somehow, Luke, if you want him.
that would
I'm gonna
be
just offer it
great.
up, man. I'll offer up Butch if you want him, dude.
That would be great. I don't know if I can handle it yet, but
Yeah. You won't be able to control it, man. I don't know.
did did you hear the idea that John Marks put on the radio? Getting a little off topic, but can afford that because gonna keep it short for the NFL stuff. But did you hear the idea John Marks put on the radio?
No, I did not.
He said they should find like an agent and for Butch, Herb, Chuck from Mount Airy,
Yeah.
and like offer them up to offer them up to like shows, offer them up to like podcasts, to bars, to have like outings. Just offer them up an agent, and you could make some money because people would pay to go see them all because they're all characters almost.
Yes, they are.
Is
That's
a
the
good
best
way to
way to
put it.
put them. I mean, you need to just all put them in a room and just say, you know what, just go. You know, just be you. And I mean, that'd be must watch television. If you put that on TV, I mean, I'm watching it. I'm watching
N
it.
Know what
I need to see
WIP
that.
should do for a special episode? Maybe like after the season or maybe after Eagle season when stuff dies down. Do an episode where you bring all them in at the same time. You have like John Marks or something sit in the background, just run like behind the scenes, bring up the topics, but just let all of them talk about it. Let all their main guys just sit in the studio and talk for one episode.
Yeah.
See if they can do it for an entire episode.
That'd be interesting, man.
I wanna see that challenge that they'd have. Because it would be a challenge, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah,
Gonna
absolutely.
gonna move on though. Before we move on, I wanna let you all know to head over and visit my friend Dan the Man Stanley at Sheridan Nissan, where they will hook you up with a new car. Just let them know Luke Saranka sent you. Now, for Luke's list this week. I'm gonna keep this stage of the episode shorter. I'm not gonna give my explanation for each team in my power rankings. What trending up is the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Oakland, but
I'm still getting used to that as well, and it's been a little bit now too.
the Las Vegas Raiders move up plus 9 spots after beating the Packers. That's more because a lot of teams, there were a lot of bad teams this week that looked bad again. So Raiders move up a few spots by default. And Jimmy G looked okay. They got an okay quarterback, not great. Josh Jacobs is getting back to what he should be. They still got Devontae Adams. They got Max Crosby still on defense. They move up plus 9 spots after their win against the Packers on Monday night. And then the Titans moved down. I can't see it over this slide, but they moved down to 23. They moved down 8 spots. The Titans, and again, they're my team that's trending down the furthest. Next week, they'll probably be trending up the furthest again. I've just been all over the place on the Titans. It's hard to place them right now. I feel like the 18 to 23 range, though, is probably best for the Titans. I've usually had them 15 and then 25, 15, 25. And it's just back and forth the last few weeks. But I feel like an 18 to 23 range is a good spot for the Titans. They come in at 8-10-0, and Derrick Henry's still good, but he's getting up there in age. D-Hop hasn't done anything really this year. They're just an ant team. Just a good coach, but just nothing moves the needle for the Titans.
Nothing wows anyone really about the Titans for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very I like that trending down, and you're right. Like, how do you place the Titans? Because they lose to Cleveland in week 3, 27-3, and then they beat the Bengals 27-3 a week later. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just
it's a
every
roller
other
coaster,
week.
man.
Like, they look good, they look terrible, they look good again, then they look terrible. Like, it's definitely hard to
They lost
place
against
them.
Gardner Minshew, who was in for 3 quarters this past week. Sure, Anthony Richardson was playing in the beginning, but Gardner Minshew. I went at the Eagles Saints game last year. That was the worst performance I have ever seen from a quarterback. And I've been to 55 Eagles games.
And you've seen Carson Wentz.
He was actually good when I got to see him, because
Yeah, he
last
was
time I got to
bad
see
towards the end.
him
Yeah,
was like 2019. I saw him last year against when he was on the Commanders, but Gardner Minshew was worse in that performance.
yeah,
When Wentz was
he
on the
was not
Commanders.
great.
That was the worst QB performance I've ever seen. But I'll move into the top 10. Not going to do an explanation for all of them. But the Seahawks at 10, they move down by default, not playing. Because the Bengals move up to 9. They move up 7 spots. The Bengals, their offense is finally getting going. That's why they move up 7 spots. They are headed in a good direction. Offense looks like it's finally starting to get clicking. Jamar Chase went off. 3 touchdowns, 140 plus yards, 9 receptions, maybe more. I'd have to double check the stats on that. But the Cowboys next come in at number 8. The Cowboys had an embarrassing loss to the Niners. Granted, it's the Niners. Niners are the best team in football right now. But still, you come out and lay a dud like that after that was the most hyped up game so far of the year besides the opening game of the season. That's the most hyped up game so far this year. And you come out and lay a dud. Dak Prescott threw 3 picks. Just something about the Cowboys. They just didn't show up when it mattered. They don't seem to show up when it matters. The Bills coming in at 7. Don't want to take too much stock into the game. They dropped 3 spots, but still not trying to take too much stock into their loss against the Jaguars. Because the Jaguars were in London for a week, and the Bills flew over there on Friday. So the Jaguars had a week to adjust. The Bills had no time to adjust. Jaguars at 6. They beat the Bills. I put them above them just because they beat them. But Jaguars have a good team still. They're in that 5 to 8 range with the Lions, Jags, Bills, and Cowboys. I feel like all those teams are in the same type tier. You got the Lions at 5. This is the highest I've ever had the Lions on my list. They move up 4 spots. And the way they're looking right now, they could potentially move up to the top 3 after this week. The way they're looking right now, they keep winning. If they win this week, there's a chance they move up to the top 3. The Lions look good. Jared Goff has looked rejuvenated. Amon-Ra, they won with them not having Amon-Ra, not having Jahmyr Gibbs. They had a very impressive win without those 2 players. Lions are headed in the right direction there. Dan Campbell has something cooking there in Detroit. Then the Dolphins at 4. The Dolphins, no real explanation for that. They just stay around the same spot by default. The Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. They got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's a little banged up right now, but they'll be fine. As long as you got number 15 back there at quarterback, you'll be fine. The Eagles coming at number 2. The Eagles offense is starting to look better. It's been looking better the last few weeks, starting to get clicking. You're leaving points on the table, but I think they'll have that cleaned up. Last year in the second half, they were leaving points on the table. They weren't scoring in the second half. This year, they just can't score in the red zone right now. They'll get it cleaned up. They got their problems cleaned up last year. They'll get the red zone problems cleaned up and find ways to finish drives. And then there's no explanation for number 1. The Niners right now, as much as I hate to say it, are the most impressive team in all of football right now. Before we move on to Luke's locks, I want to know your opinions on the list.
I mean, I think it's pretty spot on. And yeah, that Cowboys loss to the Niners. I mean, they want to be in that conversation up there with the Chiefs, Eagles, and Niners, but I mean, you cannot lose 42-10 and expect to be up there with the big dogs. You know, you just you just can't expect that as the Cowboys. And yeah, I like the Lions moving up. And you know, like you said, they won without Gibbs and Amon-Ra, and you know, Jared Goff has, you know, really blossomed as the quarterback in Detroit, and you know, Dan Campbell, like you said, has a good thing going. You know, they've gotten some great crowds, and it's definitely the best vibes the Detroit Lions have seen in quite some time. So it's pretty exciting for them. Dolphins, you know, staying the same pretty much. They've looked pretty good. They beat up on a bad Giants team, but you know, you know, they're a good team, and the Eagles will get to see them in 2 weeks. Eagles at 2, yeah, it's very accurate. I mean, I hate to admit it as well, but the Niners have been incredible. I mean, that offense is great, and Shanahan really has a good thing going out there. San Francisco, Brock Purdy has really grown even more into the 49ers quarterback than he did last year. He looks like way more comfortable,
And
he's even throwing the ball down the field a little bit more too, rather than a lot of checkdowns that I felt like he was doing last year. But he looks solid, and so does the whole offense.
Yeah, I think the Eagles and Niners are headed on a collision course. Granted, they play in a regular season, but I'm talking big picture playoffs. The 2 teams are headed on a collision course. I almost wanted the Cowboys to beat the Niners this past week because
Me too, honestly.
I'm worried about the Niners, and Ross Tucker on WIP this week put it perfectly. I had other people disagreeing with me, but he put it perfectly. You want it to swing for a home run. The Niners beating the Cowboys is more just like a double, more just going for the division. Great. You're up 2 games now in the division, which it was a win-win for the Eagles or whatever the outcome was. But if the Cowboys would have beaten the Niners, that would have been a home run for the Eagles, because then you're up a game on both. You still get 2 cracks at the Cowboys no matter what, and they're not likely going to sweep you. And the Niners, you only get 1 crack at. So it gives you that cushion in case you dropped a game to the Niners. So yeah, I wanted the Cowboys to beat the Niners, but that didn't happen, obviously. They laid
Not even close.
flat out dud which is maybe another reason I moved them down because it was just flat out disappointing game from the Cowboys.
In classic Dallas fashion.
Yeah, very
Classic.
disappointing game from the Cowboys. Did not live up to the hype.
And we don't often want them to win, but this was one of the rare times that we wanted to see the Cowboys win, and they couldn't do it for us, man. I mean,
One
just
one
terrible.
way I was phrasing it this past week is I wasn't rooting for the Cowboys to win. When I was telling people, I was phrasing it, I was rooting for the Niners to lose.
That's fair.
That was the way
I
I
know
was
what you're
trying
trying to
to
say.
phrase it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted the Niners to lose. Didn't mention the Cowboys winning at all. Just Niners lose.
yeah.
But
It's like, oh yeah. I mean, well, we'll take a Niners loss if that means the Cowboys win.
we hope
Whatever.
we hope these locks aren't disappointing. Luke's locks. I hope these locks are not disappointing and they hit for anyone who wants to place them. I like the Falcons -2.5 this week against the Commanders. The Falcons against the Commanders 2.5. I think that's a good line for the Falcons. I think they got a solid team there. Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts on offense. You got Calais Campbell on defense, Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell. They got a sneaky good team. They're 3-2 so far. The Commanders didn't look good this past week against the Bears. They made Justin Fields look like a really good quarterback. Granted, Justin Fields has looked good the last 2 weeks. So maybe he's going up right now. But I like the Falcons -2.5 there against the Bears. Then I got the Vikings -2.5 against. Shoot, why am I drawing a blank? That's bad. But the Vikings -2.5 against the Bears, actually. My bad.
Yeah.
Like -2.5 against the Bears. I like that line. It's a good light line, division matchup. You're not giving up too many points there. Granted, they don't have Jefferson, but they have Jordan Addison, who's a really good receiver. He can step up and have a bigger role, which I think he'll excel in that bigger role. So Vikings -2.5 against the Bears. They pull out a win this week. They only lost by 7 to the Chiefs. They still got the talent. They've just haven't performed well to start the year. I got the Niners -5.5 in their matchup against the Browns. The Browns still might be without Deshaun Watson, but even if Deshaun Watson plays, Niners -5.5 is a very light, I feel like, for that game. I feel like that game should be more 8.5, 7.5. 5.5 is kind of light for that game against the Browns. The Niners are the best team in football. The Jaguars -3.5 against the Colts. Gardner Minshew. That's the best way I put it. That should just be a cakewalk. They should walk right over the Colts in that matchup. Give me the Jags
At home
-3.5
too.
against the Colts. And then the Lions -3.5 in their game. Lions are very impressive right now, as we were talking about. I like where they're headed currently. And against the Bucks, I think 3.5 is a decent line by Vegas. But I think the Bucks are that type of team that's going to lose a lot of one-score games. Like, I think if I were to set that line, put it at 5.5. I think Lions win by like 6. Which I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if that's actually the outcome. Lions win by like 6 somehow. But Lions look impressive. Bucks look okay so far this year. The Baker's looking decent. Actually, just picked him up in one of my fantasy leagues because I had Anthony Richardson and he got hurt. So I had to trade Zach Moss for Baker. But that's a little off topic. But my teams, not my team. The Bucks are looking decent so far this year. But the Lions are a lot better. The Lions are top 5 team in football, potentially after this week if they have an impressive win. Top 3 in football. I want to know your thoughts on these picks for the week as we wrap up on the show today.
Well, Luke, I will always be riding with Luke's locks. I will never fade Luke's locks ever. I won't because they are always incredible. I like these again this week. Falcons Commanders. I think that's the only one that maybe could be interesting. I mean, 2.5 is a good line. Um, I think Sam Howell is an impressive quarterback, but the Falcons are at home, and I mean, I think the Falcons win, but it could be very close. I don't know. That's a swing game to me. It's interesting, but yeah, the Vikings definitely going to beat up on the Bears. Justin Fields has looked a little bit better, and the Bears are at home, but the Vikings, despite not having Jefferson, like you said, they're still a very impressive team. I mean, we saw them play pretty well against the Eagles in a losing effort in person on Thursday night. That was a very fun game that we went to. Um, and then the Niners beating the Browns. I mean, that's easy money. Take it to the bank right now. The Niners are beating the Browns by way more than 6 points, I think. Definitely a couple scores in that game, despite the Browns being at home. Can't look that far into the Browns being at home, but that's easy money right there. Jaguars at home against the Colts. I mean, just like you, not impressed with Gardner Minshew ever, really. I mean, he's looked better with the Colts than he did with the Eagles. That's not too hard to do. But overall, he's not gonna win that game, and they're not gonna get within 4 points of the Jags, I think. And then I like the Lions. We just talked about it, but yeah, they will go down to Tampa and have their way with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield and the entire team on the road. The Lions are going to perform well, and it looks like Amon-Ra is going to be back. So it's another guy that will help them in a winning effort. So I very much like your locks for this week, is the moral of the story.
I will ask you one question for the last segment of the show. Gonna put you on the spot.
Oh,
We used to do a segment before you came on the cage. I don't know if you've been yet on the cage yet at UD this year. But during football season last year, we did something called Super Dog Picks. Since you didn't do Mike's best bets this week or Mike's locks, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You gotta pick one underdog
oh,
to win this week, straight up.
straight up win this week. Wow.
An underdog.
Very interesting. Oh yeah, you did put me on the spot, man. Um Give me the Chargers over the Cowboys. At home,
I-
despite them not having a great home field advantage because of the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, the Cowboys are coming off a bad loss, and I see the Cowboys are favored by 2.5 in that game.
Mhm.
So the Chargers are an underdog. It's Monday Night Football. And give me the Chargers, man. I'm fading the Cowboys always. You know,
I-
I'm gonna be clean, but F Dallas, always. So yeah, definitely gonna see a Chargers win on Monday night, in my opinion. That is my super dog right there.
I'm gonna start incorporating that whenever I have guests on a super dog, just because it'll be a good way to throw people like on the spot. Might hide it
Yeah,
from like the show preview so they don't know it's coming,
yeah, absolutely.
but because it'll give better reactions. But yeah, I like that pick. I think that's a good pick there.
Thank you, thank you. I
I
definitely saw some other matchups that maybe I could go with.
That's the one that stood out.
Yeah, I like that one. I think the Chargers are a good team, so
Mhm.
I mean it'll be a good game either way, but I think give me the Chargers for sure.
Be- Before we go on this episode, have one correction. When we were calling the Niners, they're not the Niners. There's a nickname Eagles fans have for them,
Oh yeah,
the Whiners,
the whiners. They are whiners.
because
Dude,
all the
those fans are
complaining
so
they did.
annoying. Oh,
But I'm ready for that matchup later in the year and a potential playoff matchup with them. But that's down the line. That's a few weeks from now. I'm excited for tonight as this episode comes out. Tonight, Spencer Strider We want Strider. Ready for those Spencer chants circulating throughout the bank as we go on Rock Strider tomorrow night and move on, or tonight, and move on to the NLCS against what's likely to be the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I mean, also we do have a final in the Astros Twins. The Astros did win, and they won the series. So just before we got off, I just wanted to say that the Astros and the Rangers ALCS matchup is set. So maybe if the Phillies can make us very happy and make it back to the World Series, maybe we'll see a rematch with the cheaters, man. With the cheating Astros. I
I'll
don't know,
take a
man. We'll
rematch.
see.
I think we're the better team this year. The Phillies lineup 1 through 9 can hit. 1 through 9, all of them can hit right now.
Well, maybe
I-
not Rojas.
If he can learn how to bunt, and he hit
Yeah.
good in the Marlins series, but he
Yeah, he
needs to
was
learn how to
alright,
bunt
yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
If
I
he
mean,
can learn how to bunt, he'd be great in that last spot.
would
'Cause
you
how fast
rather
he is.
have Pache or Rojas play if you had to pick between the two? Because I know they like to mix Marsh and Pache, but
Partly because the chemistry thing right now, Rojas.
mhm.
But if you asked me 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I would have said Pache all day long.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Pache to come back because Pache did good before he got hurt the second time this year. He was looking very impressive. But I I just love this Phillies lineup, and the team has no quit. They want it bad. They want to win it bad. They want that ring this year, and so do a lot of Phillies fans. Hopefully, be on the parade. Hopefully, there's a parade in a few weeks. But
Yeah. Get us on a float. We
don't want
need
to get
it.
ahead of ourselves. Knock on
Yeah,
wood with
we're just
that.
getting excited. We definitely need to take it one game at a time, but obviously, it's easy to get very excited about this team, the explosive lineup. I mean, it's been very good,
Mhm.
and I know you're gonna see my boys tonight for Game 4, so
I
definitely say what's
I
up to
will give my
everyone.
prediction live right now. Actually, I never do
Oh,
this.
okay.
I usually just send it as a text when I'm listening to music. I get a feel. My prediction for tomorrow: Philly 6, Braves 2.
Yep.
Phillies win 6-2 and shut the Braves lineup down again. And Schwarber oh gets his gets into the action tomorrow night or tonight. Schwarber finally gets into the action. Dare I say leadoff home run? Scare
Yeah,
Strider to
he
death.
needs an oorah, man. He needs it. He needs that one out.
That would if he hits a leadoff home run, Strider's done. It's series over.
Oh, he's cooked. Yeah, take him out right away. I mean,
Yeah.
he's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's a leadoff home run, it's series over no matter what.
Yeah.
Book the Diamondbacks, book your trip to Philly if it's a leadoff home run.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. No, I like that, Luke. I like the pick, and it's easy to pick the Phils when they're in Philly in front of the crowd. I mean, a lot of opposing teams and players say that they can handle it. It's like we're ready for it. They don't know. They don't know. I mean,
yeah,
even the Braves saw it last year, and they thought they were ready for it this year, and it didn't look so good in Game 3. So hopefully that continues in Game 4 for the Atlanta Braves struggling.
hopefully next week we're on. By this time, it would be game 3 or 4 of the
Mhm.
NLCS, and we're talking about the Phillies clinching that by the end of the weekend.
We need it, man. Oh,
So, we'll
that'd
see
be
we'll see
great.
in a week's time. Thanks for coming on again, Mike, and thanks for everyone tuning in to episode 11 of Uncaged Sports Talk. It was great to have you on again. Tune in next week. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our platforms. It is greatly appreciated.